Time is running out. Every day you delay becoming who you really are. You're burying your authentic self deeper. Most people spend 40 to 50 years sleepwalking through life before they wake up. And by then, it's too late. You have this moment, right now, to choose. Continue living the lie, or face the brutal truth that could save your soul. And the warning 12 that I am about to reveal today will shake you to your core. This is your last chance. Because every day you delay, every compromise you make, every truth you swallow, you're not just postponing your real life, you're burying it alive. You clicked this video because deep down, you know something is wrong. You feel it in your bones, that creeping realization that you're living someone else's life, wearing someone else's mask, following someone else's script. And somewhere in the darkness of your quiet moments, a voice whispers, "Is this it? Is this all there is?" That voice, that's your soul screaming for authenticity in a world that rewards conformity. And Nietzsche, the mad prophet himself, he heard that scream a century ago and left us a path to liberation. I'll walk you through 13 warnings that will transform your life in ways you never imagined. If you're ready to stop sleepwalking through existence and start living with the intensity of someone who knows their time is limited, then what I'm about to share will either liberate you or terrify you. Probably both. This first warning will expose the lie that's been shaping your entire life since childhood. You cannot afford to miss this. Stop right here. Ask yourself this. What if everything you were taught about success was designed to keep you trapped? What if the very institution that promised to educate you was actually programming you to be a slave? Warning 1. The great deception of education. They called it learning, but it was really taming. From the moment you entered school, you were being programmed. Not educated, programmed. Sit in rows, memorize facts, regurgitate answers. Never question the system. Never think for yourself. Just repeat, comply, conform. Nietzsche saw this intellectual assassination everywhere. He watched as natural curiosity was murdered by standardized testing, as original thinking was replaced by approved thinking, as the wild spirit of inquiry was domesticated into obedient recitation. They didn't teach you to think. They taught you to perform. To be a good student meant to be a good parrot. To succeed meant to surrender your mind to their agenda. And by the time you realized you'd never learned to think for yourself, you were already trapped in a life built on borrowed thoughts. The education system doesn't want philosophers. It wants employees. It doesn't want revolutionaries. It wants workers. It doesn't want individuals. It wants a herd that moves in unison, thinks in unison, and never questions why. But here's what they never told you. Every original thought you have is an act of rebellion. Every question you ask threatens their control. Every moment you think for yourself, you take back a piece of your soul. The mind that could have been free has become a prison of borrowed ideas. By the time you realize you've never had an original thought, you're already trapped in careers you hate, relationships you've outgrown, and lives you never chose. But you still have time. The question is, will you use it to think, or will you continue to perform? The next warning will reveal why your brain is literally wired to choose delusion over truth, and why this addiction is destroying your life. Right now, you're probably believing comfortable lies about yourself, your relationships, your potential. Warning 2, the addiction to pleasant lies. The truth is like a surgeon's knife. It cuts, but it heals. Most people prefer the infection. Show someone a comfortable lie and they'll embrace it like a lover. Show them an uncomfortable truth and they'll reject it like poison. Why? Because truth doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't soften its edges or whisper sweet nothings. It simply is. Nietzsche understood this human weakness intimately. He wrote, "Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. And oh, how we love our illusions. The illusion that we're special without effort, that we're victims without responsibility, that we're righteous without sacrifice. We surround ourselves with echo chambers that tell us what we want to hear. We consume content that confirms our biases. We choose friends who never challenge us and lovers who never confront us. We build elaborate fantasy worlds where we're always the hero, never the villain, always right, never wrong. But reality doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your comfort zone or your self-image. It operates by its own ruthless laws, and those laws don't bend for anyone. Not for your feelings, not for your fears, not for your fragile ego. The people who learn this truth early become unstoppable. They develop what Nietzsche called intellectual courage, the ability to face facts, even when those facts are devastating. They don't run from reality, they run toward it. But most people, they spend their lives running from truth until it corners them. And by then, the price of their self-deception has grown too high to pay. The truth is waiting for you, but it won't wait forever. Now pay attention. If you're running from pain, avoiding discomfort, or numbing yourself with distractions, you're about to discover why you're throwing away your most powerful tool for transformation. This warning will change how you see every difficult moment in your life. The person who learns this becomes unstoppable. Warning 3. The wisdom hidden in wounds. Your scars are trying to teach you something. Everyone runs from pain like it's a disease. We medicate it, distract from it, blame others for it. But Nietzsche saw pain as the most honest teacher you'll ever have. The one that never lies, never flatters, never tells you what you want to hear. He wrote, "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. Not to avoid it, not to numb it, but to learn from it. Because pain doesn't lie. It doesn't deceive. It shows you exactly where you're weak, where you're attached, where you're afraid. Your heartbreak reveals what you truly value. Your anger shows what you refuse to accept. Your fear exposes what you're not ready to face. Your shame points to where you've betrayed yourself. Every wound is a message from your soul, begging you to pay attention. But most people treat pain like a malfunction, something to be fixed or forgotten. They pop pills, binge content, scroll endlessly, anything to silence the voice that's trying to save them from themselves. The warrior's path is different. It's the path of someone who walks directly into their pain, who asks it what it came to teach, who thanks it for its brutal honesty before letting it transform them. Pain doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't tell you what you want to hear. It tells you what you need to know. Your wounds are not your weakness. They're your wisdom. What I'm about to say might unsettle you, because when you follow trends without thinking, you hand over your life to the crowd, and they will ruin it for you. Warning 4. The madness of collective thinking. There's something hypnotic about the crowd. It offers belonging, certainty, the intoxicating feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself. But Nietzsche saw through this seductive illusion. He wrote, "Madness is something rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule." He understood that groups don't think. They react. They don't question. They repeat. They don't create. They conform. The crowd doesn't debate those who disagree. It destroys them. It doesn't engage opposing ideas. It silences them. It doesn't welcome individual thought. It punishes it. Because the crowd's greatest fear is not being wrong. It's being alone. And here's the cruel irony. Most people build their entire identity on the approval of people who are just as lost as they are. They don't follow their own inner compass. They follow the crowd's magnetic pull. And by the time they realize the crowd was heading toward a cliff, they're already in free fall. The crowd will always try to drag you down to their level. The question is, will you let them? But this is where it turns dangerous. If you've believed that your goodness would lead you to greatness, the next revelation will show you just how foolish you've been your entire life. Warning 5. The trap of weaponized goodness. The sheep believes his gentleness will save him from the wolves. They programmed you to be nice, to be agreeable, to put others first, to turn the other cheek. But Nietzsche saw through this moral manipulation. He understood that kindness without strength isn't virtue. It's vulnerability masquerading as goodness. In the real world, predators don't respect kindness. They exploit it. They don't see your compassion as strength. They see it as opportunity. They don't appreciate your generosity. They see it as weakness to be leveraged. You've been taught that being good means being harmless, that being moral means being powerless, that being righteous means being a doormat. But Nietzsche knew better. He understood that true goodness requires the power to be bad and the choice to be good anyway. In nature, the gazelle's gentleness doesn't protect it from the lion. In society, your niceness doesn't protect you from those who would exploit it. Predators don't respect kindness. They smell it like blood in the water. They don't see your compassion as strength. They see it as opportunity. The person who is kind and strong can change the world. The person who is only kind gets used by the world. The person who confuses weakness with virtue becomes a victim of their own moral programming. Without strength, you can't protect what you love. Without power, you can't defend what you believe. Without boundaries, you can't preserve what matters. Kindness without strength is an invitation to be devoured. The next warning will expose the lie that's keeping you paralyzed while your life slips away. Every second you wait is a second you'll never get back. If you're waiting for motivation, for the right moment, for inspiration to strike, you're killing your dreams with your own hands. Warning 6. The illusion of instant transformation. The person who waits for lightning to strike will die in the darkness. Everyone wants the magic moment, the burst of inspiration that will finally change everything. They wait for motivation like it's a divine intervention, for the perfect conditions that will make discipline effortless, for the right feeling that will make hard work easy. But Nietzsche would have mocked this modern obsession with emotional readiness. He understood that waiting for the right mood is just another form of procrastination, that seeking motivation is just another way of avoiding action. Discipline isn't about feeling good. It's about doing good regardless of how you feel. It's about keeping promises to yourself, especially when you don't want to. It's about acting from your values rather than your impulses. The person who exercises only when motivated will be weak. The person who works only when inspired will be poor. The person who loves only when it's easy will be alone. True strength comes from doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like doing it. This is what Nietzsche called self-overcoming, the ability to transcend your momentary feelings and act from your deepest principles. Your feelings are not your master. They're your weather. This warning will shatter your illusions about who really supports you and who's secretly hoping you fail. Warning 7. the betrayal of false allies. They celebrate your potential until it becomes your reality. Here's a truth that will shatter your illusions about the people closest to you, your family, your friends, your partner. Most of them don't actually want you to succeed. Not consciously, but unconsciously, they need you to stay small, safe, predictable. They love the idea of you improving, as long as you don't actually surpass them. They support your dreams, as long as those dreams don't threaten their comfort zone. They encourage your growth, as long as that growth doesn't make them confront their own stagnation. Watch what happens when you start setting boundaries. Suddenly you're difficult. When you stop people-pleasing, suddenly you're selfish. When you pursue your ambitions, suddenly you're unrealistic. When you evolve beyond their expectations, suddenly you're not the same person. Nietzsche saw this everywhere. People who claim to love you but secretly need you to fail, who pretend to support you but actually sabotage you, who say they want the best for you but can't handle you becoming your best. Your success reveals their excuses. Your discipline highlights their laziness. Your courage exposes their cowardice. Your transformation breaks the unspoken agreement that you would all stay mediocre together. Your real family is determined not by blood, but by who celebrates your becoming. Here's where it gets terrifying. The next warning will expose the monster you refuse to see and show you why embracing it is your only path to freedom. Warning 8. The monster in the mirror. The shadow you refuse to see is making your decisions. There's a dark part of you that you've been hiding, denying, and running from your entire life. But this shadow version of yourself is actually controlling your life from the unconscious. These are the parts of yourself you've been taught to hide, deny, or shame. Your selfishness, your anger, your jealousy, your pride, your cruelty, your lust. These aren't bugs in your programming. They're features of your humanity. But society taught you to be good, which really means to be one-dimensional, to show only the socially acceptable parts while stuffing the rest into a psychological basement. Nietzsche knew this was a recipe for disaster. Your shadow doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It goes underground. It influences your choices from the depths of your unconscious. It sabotages your happiness when you get too close to success. It destroys your relationships when you least expect it. The person who pretends to have no darkness gets controlled by it. The person who denies their capacity for evil becomes its unwitting servant. The person who refuses to acknowledge their shadow becomes its puppet. But the person who befriends their darkness becomes whole. The person who integrates their shadow becomes unstoppable. The person who owns their complete self becomes unbreakable. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's your missing piece. The next warning will shatter you and make you sick to your core. You have been erasing yourself throughout your life, and you never even realized it. Warning 9. The prison of people-pleasing. The person who tries to be everything to everyone becomes nothing to themselves. You learned early that love was conditional, that you had to be good, quiet, helpful, agreeable to be worthy of care. So you became a shapeshifter, a chameleon, a master of reading rooms and giving people what they wanted to see. But Nietzsche understood that people-pleasing isn't generosity. It's self-erasure. It's not kindness. It's cowardice. It's not love. It's a desperate transaction where you trade your authenticity for acceptance. The cruel irony is that the more you try to please everyone, the less anyone actually knows you. You train people to love your performance, not your truth. You become a mirror that reflects their expectations, but you disappear in the reflection. You lose access to your own preferences, your own boundaries, your own voice. You become so skilled at being who others need you to be that you forget who you actually are beneath all the masks. And then one day you wake up a stranger to yourself, wondering why no one really sees you, not realizing that you've trained them to see only what you thought they wanted to see. Authenticity will disappoint some people. That's how you know it's real. Now we enter the territory that will make you question everything you thought you knew about success. This warning will reveal something you never even considered. Warning 10. The curse of hollow success. You can climb every mountain and still feel like you're drowning. They sold you a blueprint for happiness. Get the degree, land the job, find the partner, buy the house, climb the ladder. Check all the boxes and fulfillment will follow. But Nietzsche saw through this cultural programming. He knew that external achievement without internal alignment creates a special kind of hell. You can do everything right and still feel completely wrong. You can achieve every goal and still feel empty. You can have everything you thought you wanted and still wonder if this is all there is. This isn't ingratitude. It's awakening. It's your soul recognizing that you've been living someone else's definition of success, climbing someone else's mountain, pursuing someone else's dreams while your own withers in the shadows. Nietzsche wrote about the last man, the person who has everything but stands for nothing, who is comfortable but not alive, who exists but doesn't truly live. This is the curse of our age. We've mastered survival but forgotten how to thrive. Success without meaning is the most expensive form of failure. Achievement without purpose is the most sophisticated form of emptiness. External success cannot fill an internal void. What I'm about to share will be a harsh wake-up call, because finding the real ones isn't what you think it is. Warning 11. The starvation of synthetic connection. 1 million followers cannot feed the hunger of one authentic relationship. If you have hundreds of followers but no real friends, if you're constantly connected but deeply lonely, if you're performing for an audience that doesn't really know you, this warning will expose how digital connection is actually destroying your ability to form real relationships. We live in an age of artificial intimacy, where likes substitute for love, where followers replace friends, where viral moments matter more than vulnerable moments. But Nietzsche would have seen through this digital delusion immediately. Attention is not connection. Fame is not love. Being seen is not being known. The person who confuses these things will spend their life performing for an audience that doesn't actually care about them. We've become addicted to the dopamine hit of notifications, the brief high of being liked, the fleeting rush of being shared. But underneath all the noise, a question haunts. Who am I when no one is watching? Because if you only exist when you're being observed, then you don't really exist at all. You're just a performance, a projection, a product optimized for consumption. Nietzsche believed that meaning comes not from how many people see you, but from what you see when you're alone. From being someone you respect, not just someone others admire. The person who needs an audience to feel alive is already dead inside. If you're avoiding difficult conversations, you're about to face the most brutal truth of all. This warning will force you to confront the fact that your time is running out, and most of it has already been wasted. Warning 12. The mirror of mortality. Only when you remember you're dying do you remember how to live. We treat death like a taboo, a tragedy, a cosmic mistake. But Nietzsche saw death as the ultimate teacher, the final editor, the force that strips away everything false and leaves only what's essential. He asked the most powerful question in philosophy. If you had to live this exact life again, in the same order, with the same joys and sorrows, would you? This is eternal recurrence. The idea that a life worth living is a life worth repeating infinitely. Most people would say no. They'd want to change this, fix that, undo those mistakes. But that's the point. Death isn't the enemy. It's the mirror that shows you what you've wasted, what you've avoided, what you've postponed. When you truly understand that your time is limited, everything changes. The petty dramas lose their power. The important relationships deepen. The meaningful work becomes urgent. The authentic life becomes non-negotiable. Most people only wake up to this truth when they're facing their own mortality. By then, much of their life has been spent on things that don't matter to people who don't care. Death doesn't steal life. It reveals what life is worth. Final warning. This is it, the moment of truth, the choice that will determine whether you live authentically or die a coward. What you're about to learn will either liberate you completely or terrify you into paralysis. There's no going back after this. You've been warned. Warning 13. The price of true liberation. To find yourself, you must first lose everything you think you are. This is Nietzsche's ultimate warning, the one that separates the awakened from the sleeping. Real freedom, psychological, spiritual, authentic freedom, requires the destruction of everything false in your life. Your fake relationships will have to go. Your people-pleasing patterns will have to die. Your need for approval will have to be sacrificed. Your comfortable lies will have to be exposed. Your safe cage will have to be abandoned. Freedom isn't free. It's the most expensive thing you'll ever pay for. But you don't pay with money. You pay with comfort, security, the illusion of safety, the approval of others, the familiar version of yourself that keeps you small. Most people want freedom without paying the price. They want to be authentic without disappointing anyone. They want to be themselves without losing anyone. But Nietzsche knew better. You can't add authenticity to an inauthentic life. The person who is truly free stands alone in their truth. They don't need to belong because they belong to themselves. They don't need approval because they approve of themselves. They don't need others to complete them because they are already whole. Freedom isn't given, it's taken, and it will cost you everything that was never really yours. The choice is yours. You've just walked through 13 warnings that most people spend their entire lives learning the hard way. Nietzsche didn't share these insights to punish you. He shared them to liberate you. Each warning is a fork in the road, a choice point, a moment where you can either wake up or continue sleeping. Maybe you're not ready to change everything today. Maybe the price of freedom seems too high. Maybe the comfort of your cage feels safer than the uncertainty of the wilderness. That's okay. Awareness always comes before action. But if even one of these warnings shook something loose in you, if even one of them made you question the life you're living, then you're already on the path back to yourself, back to your truth, back to the authentic life that's been waiting for you all along. The world doesn't need another person who plays it safe, who follows the rules, who lives quietly and dies quietly. The world needs you, the real you, the dangerous you, the you that threatens the status quo simply by existing. Nietzsche's final words to humanity were, "Become who you are, not who they want you to be, not who's safe to be, but who you actually are beneath all the programming, all the expectations, all the fear." The question is, will you answer the call? Which of these warnings hit you the hardest? Which one are you still fighting? Let me know in the comments below. And if this video made you feel seen, truly seen, Then subscribe. We're building a community of people who refuse to live asleep, who demand more from life than mere survival, who are brave enough to become who they really are. Your authentic life is waiting, but it won't wait forever. Welcome to the awakening.